So we want to also advise and maybe shout out to all the Africans out there, our leaders in particular, that you cannot fold your hands and watch the destruction of our own continent in the hands of the Americans. The Ethiopian war is quite key. And bearing in mind, Congo's wars have never stopped. From time immemorial, there is no day in Congo which goes past without gunshots being heard. And we know Congo is the richest country on the face of Africa. And if Congo can be free, then the whole of Africa can be free. You don't forget that what you call the Berlin Conference is actually the Congo Conference, because the biggest cake that they were fighting for was the cake of Congo. And if Africa would look at this carefully, the hydropower that is in Congo can even be a solution for South African power problems, which is this load shedding. The biggest hydro power station in the world is in Congo, on the Congo River. And if this can find support from other African governments, we can generate enough power from Congo to light up the whole of Africa, And this is where our presidents become weaklings, where constantly they are thinking that making fossil-based power stations, building mudupis, burning coal, and creating power is a solution. The real solution for the future, in the armpit of the global warming treaties that have been signed in Glasgow, it is to move towards green energy, which includes solar energies, hydro energies, wind energies, and those will be the solutions for the future. So we cannot say we are developing when we are busy developing ancient, archaic, old, technologies to power our own power systems and power stations. Solutions is organic, these very indigenous and also green sorts of energies that we can use. So we're looking at African space with great interest, and we hope that in your various spaces of study and research and influence, we can begin to see the monster that is in the house. The colonial masters are keeping on changing faces, from political, to economic, to religious, to spiritual, to societal restructuring, to morality, to all this entertainment twisting around the African child. And we unless we begin to think carefully, we'll constantly be following those that are leading us towards the great dungeon of our own destruction. I hear that we are en route to the global village. The only question I have is that when we get to that village, what will the African be in that village? Are we going to be kings and queens, or we are still going to become slaves in that village? This is an appeal to African Union. This is an appeal to SADC. This is an appeal to COMESA. This is an appeal to all African organizations, the Pan-Africanists. I wish actually I could mobilize young people in Africa, and we go and support in Ethiopia. We cannot be sitting around and watching that happen. It's after Ethiopia, maybe it's Zimbabwe. After Zimbabwe, maybe it's Botswana, maybe it's South Africa, maybe it's Burkina Faso, maybe it's Guinea. For that reason, you find that these wars are being sponsored by a political agenda, by a political philosophy of you are either with us or you're against us. It's all or nothing at all. And with those words, we want to encourage the African children. Please start thinking. Consider your political conversations very seriously, and let us make noise. Let us make noise for Ethiopia. Let us make noise for Sudan. Let us make noise for Swaziland. Let's make noise for Congo. Let's make noise for Nigeria. And let's make noise. The biggest wars that are being fought, some of them are based on the religious wars. They are religious wars. And one of the reasons could be actually the Ethiopian religious space that is not very tolerant of the colonial ways of doing things, because Ethiopia has its own history, its own religion. And this is our African basis as Africans. And it's quite sad. It's quite sad that we see our political leaders busy talking political conversations that are non-progressive, non-generational. These talks are are short-lived. The real business we must be talking about is how can we, as Africans, begin to put our heads together, put our weapons together, put our minds together, and protect our continent from the enemies that are coming from without. This is why I was talking about the United Kingdoms of Africa, where all African governments should put their political powers together, put their weapons together, put their military powers together as an African continent, so that when we have enemies that are coming into the continent through our borders, through our skies, and through our seas, we can actually be able to respond to some of those challenges that we have. And as individuals, we will never survive to fight these enemies. But if we can unite as Africans and join our hands together as a continent, we may be able to start having a conversation, meaningfully so. And if they don't cooperate, we put China on sanctions. We put China on sanctions. And if we can close China and close America in terms of sanctions, the whole international market will collapse overnight. That also includes even Europe itself, France in particular, Germany to follow, Britain to follow with the Commonwealth, that we cannot undermine ourselves because we are the cradle of humankind with the resources that they need to drive their economies. It is important, therefore, that we begin to talk about African strength. Let's put aside all these tribal wars. Let's put aside these, xenophobic attacks. Let's put aside this false nationalism. I'm Zambian, I am Malawian, I am Nigerian, I am Cameroonian. Those kind of battles, I think they've expired. The real thing we must start saying right now is that I'm an African. And I'm an African. And wherever there's a problem, wherever there's war in Africa, that war is not in that country. That war is on all of us. That war is on all of us. And I want to challenge us this morning as we are closing this year. It's sad to notice that this year will close with one of our own countries here in Africa, with gunshots and wars that are happening, with lots of propaganda that is going on the American TV channels to try and show and to try and mobilize the local people towards destroying and killing each other while they are sitting in their White Houses in the West. This for me is wrong. You don't give guns to fellow brothers and sisters and they kill each other while the one who is sponsoring that war is sitting in his palace enjoying himself. Therefore, it is true that when brothers fight to death, the foreigner will always inherit their wealth. When brothers fight to death, the stranger will eat their inheritance. I wish you all a wonderful morning. I was just announcing that if there are any solutions out there on how we can run around this conundrum that we found ourselves in, please share with us some information. And while we are on that also, we want to sympathize with the people of Swaziland, the battles that they are going through there with the royal house in Swaziland, and the people of the land find a solution. The very democracy that they are looking for is what all of Africa is struggling with. So I don't think that even them trying to fight towards the democratic system will be a solution. You need to find a system that works. Look at other kingdoms around the world, from the United Emirates to Britain, which also have monarchs and royalties. Then send delegates there, find out software, how they are managing it. If you want to benchmark your country with the civilizations of the West, then find how it is working. Germany does not even have the democratic system as we talk about it here. China, same thing. Singapore, same thing. There are other successful countries around the world which are not using the democratic system. And Swaziland being our last standing monarch, it's quite sad to see them destroying that last piece that has remained on us. I'm not saying that there's no errors or challenges that the king is facing in Swaziland, but surely there should be a way of the local people coming together, having that conversation and making it successful. West still also, this last 2 weeks, I've picked up the war that is happening in Ethiopia, and you will be very quick to understand that Ethiopia has never lost a battle to the colonizers. It remains the only country in Africa which was never colonized, and it's dear to the African history And we are saddened to hear that the American government actually wants to enforce a regime change. It is funny, because if you can look at the history of the American government, from the Roosevelts to the Bushes, to the Reagans, to the Clintons, to the Jim Carters and Obamas, every president who gets into power, and he must fight a war. He must fight a war. And some may don't understand why there's always war.